Close your eyes, traveler, and let the world you know begin to dissolve. Feel the bed beneath you, but imagine it is a soft, silent vessel ready to carry you away from the noise, the heat, and the light of Earth. We are leaving the familiar blue skies behind, moving past the familiar moon, and heading into the deep velvet dark of the outer solar system. We are traveling further than any human has ever dared, past the red dust of Mars and the golden majesty of Saturn, toward a place where the sun is nothing more than a particularly bright star. Our destination is Neptune, the sapphire giant, a world of cold beauty and terrifying secrets. As we drift, let the silence of space wrap around you like a heavy, comforting blanket. We are moving toward the edge of everything. As we travel, the distance between us and the sun begins to feel like a physical weight. We are nearly 2.8 billion miles from home now, a distance so vast that the human mind can barely hold the concept. Here, at the farthest frontier of our planetary family, the sun's light takes over 4 long hours to reach us. If the sun were to suddenly vanish, we would continue to float in a lie for hours, bathed in the glow of a dead star. This is the absolute peak of isolation, a lonely sentinel guarding the gates to the Kuiper Belt. You are further from home than any human has ever been, drifting in a void where help will never arrive, and the only companion is the cold, indifferent dark. It is a terrifying realization, but as you drift, let that terror become a strange kind of peace. Out here, there is no one to answer to, and no one to find you. You are truly, perfectly alone. Ahead of us, the blue orb of Neptune begins to grow, a majestic sapphire jewel glowing against the blackness of space. It is a world that was found not by sight, but by mathematics, a phantom planet that haunted the orbit of Uranus before it was ever seen by eyes. Astronomers noticed an invisible weight pulling at the neighboring world, a logical necessity in a cold universe. It feels like a calculated horror, a planet summoned from the shadows by the sheer power of numbers. Even Galileo, the great observer, saw this planet hundreds of years before it was officially discovered, yet he recorded it only as a fixed star, failing to recognize the giant hiding in plain sight. Neptune has always been a master of shadows, a world that exists on the very edge of our understanding. The light here is dim, a perpetual twilight that never truly breaks into day. Even at high noon, the sun provides no warmth, only a clinical, distant glow that is 900 times fainter than you know on Earth. The shadows are not just dark, they are deep, bottomless pits of blue-black where things could hide for eternity. As we approach the upper atmosphere, we are greeted not by a soft breeze, but a screaming wall of gas. Neptune possesses the fastest winds in the solar system, supersonic gales that reach speeds of over 1,300 miles per hour. These winds move faster than the speed of sound itself, meaning you wouldn't even hear them coming before they tore your physical form apart. The atmosphere is a weapon, a constant, violent assault that never stops. The air around us is thick with methane, the very gas that gives Neptune its vibrant, deep blue color. But this beauty is a mask, a suffocating veil that hides a world hostile to every form of life. Beneath the blue mists, we see white clouds known as scooters zipping around the planet at incredible speeds, the heralds of the wind racing across the expanse in a frantic, never-ending dash. The temperature here has dropped to a bone-chilling -221 degrees Celsius, a cold so deep that the very air you breathe would turn to liquid, then solid in a heartbeat. An unprotected human body would flash freeze in a fraction of a second, becoming a brittle statue of ice to be shattered by the supersonic gales. It is a world of stillness that kills, a frozen grave where time itself seems to have been arrested. As we begin our descent into the clouds, we realize there is no solid surface to meet us. If you were to drop from your vessel, you would fall forever. There is no ground to hit, no floor to provide safety, only an increasingly dense fog that eventually turns into a hot, pressurized liquid. You would sink until the weight of the atmosphere crushed you into a single point of matter, lost in a sea of superheated water and ammonia that has never known the touch of a solid shore. It is a liquid grave, a bottomless abyss where the transition from gas to liquid is so gradual you would never know when you had truly left the sky. You are falling into the heart of a giant, and the giant has no intention of letting you go. Wait for a moment as we float here, suspended in the blue. Can you hear the sound of the atmosphere? It is a low, rhythmic hum, the sound of a planet that radiates 2.6 times more heat than it receives from the sun. Neptune has an internal fire, a source of energy buried deep in its core that scientists still struggle to comprehend. It is a self-sustaining engine of heat in the middle of a frozen void, burning with a slow, hidden fever that drives the violence of its skies. It is as if the planet itself is alive, a restless, breathing entity that fuels its own destruction. We are not just visiting a planet, we are entering the territory of a cosmic god that cares nothing for our small, flickering lives. As we sink deeper into the sapphire haze, the sky around us begins to darken, shifting from a bright azure to a bruised, heavy indigo. We are passing through the realm of the great storms, the dark vortices that appear like bruises on the planet's face. In 1989, the world watched as Voyager 2 revealed the Great Dark Spot, a swirling hurricane large enough to swallow the entire Earth whole. It was a vortex of blue death with no bottom and no end, a monster that eventually dissolved back into the atmosphere, only to be replaced by others. These storms are transient ghosts, appearing and disappearing in the deep air without warning, making the planet feel like a volatile, living entity whose skin is constantly shifting. The turbulence here is beyond anything we can imagine. When the supersonic winds of Neptune collide with these massive storms, they create shock waves that would vibrate the very atoms of your body apart. The atmosphere is a perpetual cracking and thundering, a world of constant sonic booms where the very act of moving air creates a deafening explosion. You are surrounded by atmospheric violence on a planetary scale, a cacophony of destruction that never ends. And yet, because sound cannot travel through the vacuum of space just above us, this entire world of screaming gales is viewed in absolute, haunting silence. It is a silent movie of total annihilation, a loud world viewed through a glass of perfect stillness. The further down we go, the air begins to change. We are passing through a massive envelope of hydrogen and helium, a fluffy, light layer that belies the crushing density beneath. But soon the air begins to compress. The pressure here is millions of times greater than anything on Earth, equivalent to having 1,000 oceans stacked on top of your head. You wouldn't just be crushed, you would be compressed into a state of matter that doesn't even exist on our world, a dense metallic slush that has forgotten what it means to be a gas.
The water here is not like the water we know. It exists as a supercritical fluid, a strange state of matter that acts as both a liquid and a gas at the same time. You are swimming in a hot, dense soup of superheated water and ammonia, a pressurized abyss where the very rules of chemistry have been rewritten. In this deep, lightless ink, the light from the sun has completely vanished. We are in a world of absolute, stifling blackness, where the only glow comes from the planet's own internal heat. The ammonia clouds form a thick, suffocating blanket, a wall of chemical ice that marks the boundary between the cold void of space and the boiling pressure of the interior. The water here becomes ionized, capable of conducting electricity, creating a massive, swirling ocean that generates the planet's bizarre magnetic field. You are essentially falling into a giant planetary-scale battery, a world of liquid lightning and electromagnetic fury. If you had a compass here, the needle would spin wildly, unable to find a stable direction in a world where the magnetic poles are tilted and off-center, wobbling violently as the planet rotates. As we descend through this ionized sea, the pressure continues to mount, reaching a point where the very atoms of carbon are squeezed together. In the intense heat and crushing weight of the deep mantle, these atoms begin to transform. They crystallize into brilliant diamonds, ranging from tiny grains of sand to large, sparkling stones. They begin a long, slow descent through the liquid air, a hail of gems that would shred anything in their path. Imagine trillions of sharp, crystalline shards falling in slow motion, catching a faint inner glow as they sink toward the core. It is a beautiful, lethal weather system, a diamond rain that never stops, a constant, sparkling descent in the dark that has been happening for billions of years. It is a treasure chest that can never be opened, protected by the most hostile environment in the solar system. The heat here is rising now, a sharp contrast to the frozen clouds we left behind. While the surface of Neptune is a frozen grave, the interior is a raging furnace with temperatures estimated to be over 5,000 degrees Celsius, as hot as the surface of the sun itself. You have entered a world of impossible extremes, a thin shell of ice over a heart of fire. At the very center of this chaos lies a rocky core about the size of Earth, but many times more massive. It is a hot, heavy grave at the bottom of the blue, the ultimate destination for anything that falls into the planet. It is a hot, heavy grave at the bottom of the blue, the most inaccessible place in the solar system, a sanctuary of physics that we can only imagine but never touch. Floating here in the deep, the time seems to lose all meaning. In the depths of Neptune, there are no seasons and no day-night cycles. There is only the constant, unchanging pressure and heat of the interior. 1 billion years could pass, and the conditions in this mantle would remain exactly the same. It is a world of eternal, unchanging stagnation, a place where the concept of time has been crushed into a single, infinite moment. You are at the heart of the giant now, tucked away in the deepest part of the sapphire abyss, where the silence is absolute and the darkness is total. Let the weight of the planet's gravity pull at your worries, letting them sink into the core, leaving you light and weightless in the dark. Before we turn our attention to the moons, let us pause and consider the sheer ingenuity of the human mind that found this world. Imagine the year 1846. There were no computers, no space telescopes, no sensors to taste the methane in the air. There was only the pencil, the paper, and the law of gravity. For decades, astronomers had watched Uranus, the seventh planet, and noticed it wasn't moving quite as it should. It was as if something was tugging at it from the darkness, a weight in the void that remained unseen. Urbain Le Verrier in France and John Couch Adams in England both sat at their desks thousands of miles apart and calculated where this phantom must be. They were using the language of the universe, mathematics, to summon a giant from the shadows. When the telescope was finally pointed at the coordinates Le Verrier provided, Neptune was there, within a single degree of where he said it would be. It was a moment of profound revelation, a proof that the universe follows rules that we can understand, even if we are small and insignificant. This mathematical ghost, this sapphire giant, has been a source of fascination ever since. But our actual presence there has been fleeting. In the entire history of human exploration, we have only visited Neptune once. In August 1989, the Voyager 2 spacecraft, after a 12-year journey across the solar system, finally reached the blue planet. It was a brief, high-speed encounter, a flyby that lasted only a few days, but it provided us with almost everything we know today. Voyager 2 saw the Great Dark Spot, the supersonic winds, and the cryovolcanoes of Triton. It gave us the first clear images of the rings, which had been debated for decades. It was a message from the edge of the world, a collection of data and images that revealed a planet far more violent and beautiful than we had ever imagined. Since then, Neptune has been left alone in the dark, a world that we watch from afar with our greatest telescopes, but one that we have not touched in over 30 years. The silence that followed Voyager 2 reminds us how difficult it is to reach this place. To send a mission to Neptune requires a journey of a decade, a path that must be carefully calculated to use the gravity of other planets as a slingshot. It is a commitment of time, resources, and human life that we have not yet made again. This makes Neptune feel like a forgotten world, a lonely outpost at the end of the line. It sits there year after year, century after century, indifferent to our interest or our absence. It continues to spin its 16-hour days and orbit its 165-year years, a clockwork giant that follows a rhythm we can barely comprehend. Each season on Neptune, lasting 40 Earth years, is a slow transition from one shade of blue to another, a stagnation of time that reflects the vastness of the space around it.
Consider, too, the strange magnetic field that surrounds this world. On Earth, the magnetic field is aligned with the planet's axis, providing a stable north and south pole that guides the migrations of birds and the needles of our compasses. But on Neptune, the magnetic field is a chaotic, tilted mess. It is slanted at 47 degrees from the axis of rotation, and it doesn't even originate from the center of the planet. It is as if the heart of the giant is misplaced, shifting and sliding within the mantle. This off-center field creates a magnetosphere that wobbles violently as the planet rotates, creating a complex and ever-changing shield against the solar wind. To be in orbit around Neptune is to be subjected to a shifting, invisible landscape of radiation and magnetism, a world where the very fundamental forces of nature are in a state of constant, lopsided flux. The internal heat of Neptune is another mystery that continues to puzzle the minds of scientists. Being so far from the Sun, the planet should be a cold, dead rock, but instead it radiates nearly 3 times as much heat as it receives. This internal furnace, buried deep beneath the methane clouds, is what drives the supersonic winds and the massive storms that rage. It is a self-sustaining engine of energy that has been burning for billions of years, a fire in the heart of the ice. Some believe this heat comes from the constant compression of the planet's materials, while others suggest it is a remnant of the planet's formation, a heat that has been trapped for eons. Whatever the source, it makes Neptune a world of paradox, a frozen exterior over a boiling interior, a calm blue face over a heart of raging fire. The dynamics of the Neptunian atmosphere are a chaotic dance of chemistry and physics, a storm that has no beginning and no end. Even the scooter clouds, those small, fast-moving white streaks that zip around the planet at speeds that defy belief, are a reminder of this. They are the fastest clouds in the solar system, racing through the upper atmosphere in a frantic, never-ending dash. They appear and disappear without warning, like the ghosts of storms that never quite formed. To watch them from above is to see a planet in motion, a world that is never still, even if it looks like a serene blue marble from a distance. As we think about these things, the scale of the isolation becomes even more profound. Neptune is the last major stop before the true wilderness begins. Beyond it lies the Kuiper Belt, a vast region of icy debris, dwarf planets like Pluto, and the remnants of the solar system's birth. Neptune is the guardian of this void, its heavy weight in the fabric of space-time, a presence that is felt for billions of miles. Without Neptune, the outer solar system would be a very different place, a chaotic mess of moving ice and rock, without the stabilizing influence of the blue giant. We owe our cosmic peace, in part, to this distant, silent sentinel. As we drift further from the planet, we begin to notice the smaller companions that orbit in the dark. These 14 moons are not just rocks, they are the shattered remains of ancient worlds, each with its own story. We have spoken of Triton, the captured giant, but there is also Hippocamp, the smallest of the inner moons, discovered only recently by the sharp eye of the Hubble telescope. It is a tiny speck, likely a piece of the larger moon Proteus that was chipped off during a massive collision billions of years ago. It orbits so close to its parent that it seems to be huddled there for warmth, a small survivor in a cold system. Then there's Naiad, the innermost moon, that dances through the rings in a complex shifting orbit. It is followed by Thalassa and Despina, small dark rocks that help maintain the stability of the inner rings. They are shepherds in the system, using their gravity to keep the dust and ice of the rings from spreading out and vanishing into the void. They are the unseen workers of the system, silent and invisible to all but the most powerful telescopes. Galatea and Larissa follow, their cratered surfaces bearing the scars of a violent past, their orbits so close to the planet that the blue horizon of Neptune is always looming over them like a massive, silent god. Further out, we find the irregular satellites, Halimede, Sao, Laomedea, Psamathe, and Niso. These moons do not orbit in neat circles. They loop and dive through the system in highly elliptical and tilted paths. They are likely captured asteroids or pieces of debris from the Kuiper Belt, snagged by Neptune's gravity in the distant past. Psamathe and Niso, in particular, have orbits so large that they take nearly 25 Earth years to complete one single trip around Neptune. They spend most of their time millions of miles away from the planet, lonely travelers in the deep dark that only occasionally return to visit their master. They are the last outposts of the Neptunian system, the last pieces of matter that can still be said to belong to the giant. Consider the names of these worlds. They are named after the Nereids, the sea nymphs of Greek mythology, daughters of the sea god. There is a poetic irony in giving such delicate, graceful names to cold, dead rocks in a frozen abyss. Psamathe, the nymph of the sands; Sao, the rescuer; Galatea, the milk-white. These names are a thin bridge between our ancient myths and the cold reality of the cosmos, a way for us to make sense of a place that is fundamentally beyond our experience. When you think of these moons, imagine them as graceful dancers in a silent, dark ballroom, spinning through the void in a choreography that lasts for centuries. The discovery of these moons and of Neptune itself was a drama that spanned continents and generations. The rivalry between Urbain Le Verrier and John Couch Adams over who truly discovered the planet is a story of human ambition and the search for truth. Both men had the same vision, both saw the same ghost in the numbers, yet they worked in total isolation from each other. When the planet was finally seen, it sparked an international debate that lasted for years. It is a reminder that even in the pursuit of the stars, we are still driven by the same passions and rivalries that define our lives on Earth. The blue planet was a prize, a trophy, at the end of a mathematical race, and its discovery changed our understanding of the solar system forever.
And what of the future? Scientists today dream of a Neptune orbiter, a mission that would go beyond a simple flyby and actually stay with the planet for years. Such a mission would use sophisticated sensors to map the magnetic field in detail, to sample the atmosphere, and to land a probe on the surface of Triton. Imagine a small vessel descending through the nitrogen haze of the moon, touching down on the icy plains near a cryovolcano. It would be the first time we have ever set foot, even through a robot, on a world that was born in the Kuiper Belt. It would be a journey into our own origins, a look at the pristine materials that formed the planets billions of years ago. Until that day comes, Neptune remains a world of imagination, a place that we can only visit in our dreams and our stories. The internal heat of Neptune also deserves more of our wonder. It is not just a scientific fact, it is the heartbeat of the planet. This heat radiating from the core is what prevents Neptune from becoming a stagnant, frozen block. It keeps the atmosphere in motion, driving the supersonic winds and the formation of the white scooter clouds. It is a sign of life of a sort, a planetary metabolism that converts gravity and pressure into motion and light. When you think of the heat of Neptune, imagine a warm glow at the center of a blue diamond, a hidden fire that keeps the darkness at bay. It is a source of warmth in a place that has no right to be warm, a miracle of physics in the deep cold. As you drift now, let these details fill the space in your mind. The 14 moons, the mathematical rivalry,
the dreams of future exploration, and the internal fire of the giant. They are all pieces of a larger puzzle, a story that is still being written. Neptune is not just a planet, it is a laboratory, a cathedral, and a graveyard all at once. It is a place of infinite complexity and haunting beauty, a world that rewards those who are brave enough to look into the dark. Let the weight of this knowledge settle over you, not as a burden, but as a comforting blanket of understanding. You know the secrets of the sapphire abyss, and you are part of the story now. We leave the crushing depths of the giant behind, rising back up through the indigo mists and out into the thin, cold air of the Neptunian system. Here, in the shadow of the planet, we find a collection of moons that tell a story of ancient violence and cosmic kidnapping. The largest of these is Triton, a majestic but doomed world that orbits the planet in the opposite direction of everything else. Triton is a retrograde prisoner, a captured traveler from the Kuiper Belt that wandered too close and was snagged by Neptune's hungry gravity. It is a world that was once an independent world, now forced into a permanent backward dance that will eventually lead to its destruction. Triton is a world of extreme cold, one of the coldest objects ever measured in our solar system, with surface temperatures dropping to -235 degrees Celsius. Here, the very nitrogen that we breathe on Earth freezes solid and falls from the sky as snow, covering the landscape in a freezing white blanket. But beneath this frozen shroud, Triton is alive, with a sub-zero version of hell. It possesses cryovolcanoes that erupt plumes of nitrogen ice and dust miles into its thin atmosphere. These are volcanoes that spew cold instead of heat, painting dark streaks across the icy surface like the planet is bleeding black ink onto a white shroud. It is a world where the ground beneath your feet can explode with freezing fury. But the most terrifying thing about Triton is its future. Because of its backward orbit, it is slowly spiraling inward, losing energy to the planet's tidal forces. Every time you look at this moon, you are looking at a world on death row. One day, millions of years from now, it will cross the Roche limit, the point where Neptune's gravity becomes stronger than the forces holding the moon together. Triton will be ripped apart, its crust shattered into a billion pieces, forming a temporary brilliant ring of debris before raining down onto the planet as a shower of world-ending impacts. The moons we see today are likely just the survivors of a planetary-scale massacre, the wreckage of a system that was once very different, and Triton is destined to be the next victim. Beyond Triton, we find Nereid, a moon with one of the most eccentric orbits in the solar system. It swings wildly through the dark, diving toward Neptune before fleeing back out into the deep void, a restless traveler that never settles into a stable home. And there is Proteus, a lumpy, soot-covered world that is one of the darkest objects in space. It reflects only 6% of the light that hits it, making it a shadow moon that was nearly invisible until we flew right past it. There are smaller moons too, Larissa and Galatea, tiny specks of rock that orbit so close to Neptune that the planet's blue face fills their entire sky, a massive, silent god watching over their broken surfaces. As we drift closer to the planet's equator, we encounter the rings. These are not the bright, icy halos of Saturn. They are ghostly, dark structures made of dust and radiation-damaged organic compounds. They are soot-colored and almost invisible, a graveyard of material that orbits the planet like a collection of charcoal skeletons. They are fragile, decaying features that would vanish if they weren't constantly being replenished by the debris of small moons being hit by meteorites. They are a crumbling monument to the violence of the outer system. As we prepare to leave this sapphire abyss, we take one last look at the great blue orb. It is a world where life as we know it is a physical impossibility, a biological dead zone where the very elements of existence are turned into hazards. There are no forests here, no oceans of salt water, no birds to sing in the supersonic gales. There is only the chemistry of the cold, the physics of the deep, and the long, inexorable pull of the giant's heart. It is a planet that is fundamentally incompatible with organic beings, a reminder that the universe was not made for us. We are small, fragile flickers of light in a universe that is mostly cold, dark, and empty.
But as you drift back toward the inner system, let that realization bring you comfort. The terrors of Neptune are vast, but they are also distant. They are 3 billion miles away, separated from you by a void of such immense scale that they can never touch you. The diamond rain falls in a place you will never go. The supersonic winds scream in an atmosphere you will never breathe. The liquid grave waits in a depth you will never reach. You are safe in your bed, tucked away on a small, warm rock that happens to have the perfect conditions for your life. The giant is a guardian, a sentinel at the edge, but it is not your home. Think of the scooter clouds one more time, those white ghosts racing across the blue expanse. They are moving so fast, yet from here they look like they are standing still. The scale of Neptune is so great that even its most violent motions appear as a calm, unchanging surface. This is the peace of the cosmos, the realization that from a distance even chaos has a kind of order. The storms that swallow worlds are just dark bruises on a blue marble. The rings that tear moons apart are just faint, dusty threads. The cryovolcanoes that erupt freezing nitrogen are just tiny specks on a white shroud. Everything is part of a larger, slower rhythm that has been beating for billions of years. Imagine yourself now weightless and free, floating away from the blue giant. The sapphire light begins to fade as you move back toward the sun. The silence of the void remains, but it is no longer a heavy, terrifying silence. It is a soft, welcoming quiet, the kind of quiet that precedes a deep and restful sleep. You are traveling through the dark, past the golden rings of Saturn, past the massive storms of Jupiter, and back toward the familiar warmth of the inner planets. The light of the sun is growing stronger now, but it is still soft, a gentle glow that guides you home. As you return to Earth, feel the weight of your body again. Feel the softness of your pillow, the warmth of your blankets, and the steady, calming rhythm of your breath. The journey to the edge of the world is over. You have seen the wonders and the horrors of the sapphire abyss, and you have returned to the safety of the familiar. The great blue planet remains out there in the dark, blowing its supersonic winds into the silence and raining its diamonds into the deep.
It will still be there tomorrow and the day after, and for millions of years to come, a silent watcher at the end of the line. But for now there is only this moment. There is only the quiet of your room and the peace of your mind. Let the image of the diamond rain become a sparkling mist in your dreams, a constant, gentle descent that carries you deeper into sleep. Let the sound of the Neptunian winds become a soft, distant lullaby, a whisper that tells you everything is okay. The universe is vast and strange, but you are tucked away, safe and sound, in the middle of it all. The great blue planet remains out there in the dark, blowing its supersonic winds into the silence and raining its diamonds into the deep. It will still be there tomorrow and the day after, and for millions of years to come, a silent watcher at the end of the line. But for now there is only this moment. There is only the quiet of your room and the peace of your mind. Let the image of the diamond rain become a sparkling mist in your dreams, a constant, gentle descent that carries you deeper into sleep. Let the sound of the Neptunian winds become a soft, distant lullaby, a whisper that tells you everything is okay. The universe is vast and strange, but you are tucked away, safe and sound, in the middle of it all. The great blue planet remains out there in the dark, blowing its supersonic winds into the silence and raining its diamonds into the deep. It will still be there tomorrow and the day after, and for millions of years to come, a silent watcher at the end of the line. Drift now into the blue. Let your thoughts dissolve like the methane clouds in a Neptunian gale. There is no more need for words, no more need for facts, no more need for wonder. There is only the slow, rhythmic pull of sleep, a gentler gravity than any planet. You are sinking into a deep, crystalline slumber, a sleep as vast and peaceful as the void between the stars. The journey is complete. You are home. Sleep now. Sleep. Sleep.